worst fear becomes your reality. Hi, I'm Brent Cassidy. Welcome to the Nightmare Success In and Out podcast, where we explore how to overcome your fears and nightmares and set yourself free. We're going to be exploring this topic with guys I was in Leavenworth with and others who survived their own nightmare. These stories can be inspiring, sometimes sad. There's some humor, but hopefully you can come away with a nugget of something that'll help you knock down some of the prisons you built up in your own mind. All right, welcome back, Nightmare Success and Now listeners. This is where you come for what happens when your worst fear becomes your reality. How do you adapt, survive, overcome, set yourself free? Don't forget, if you like this, anything you got in this thing, follow, subscribe, share, like, comment. I love it when everybody does that. So much helps the show. So I got to tell you guys, I am so excited to be interviewing my guy here, Damon West. You know, every once in a while, I feel very lucky that I have this show to be able to share in these stories on this platform. But Damon West, I listened to him. I found him on the Ed Milet show, and he's told some stories on there that I was like, man, I would love to interview this guy sometime. Well, Jeremy Larson, I want to give a big shout out to Jeremy because he connected Damon and me, and I so much appreciate that, Jeremy. So high five to you. So who in the world is Damon West? I'm sure some of you have heard of him because he's been all over everywhere speaking. USA Today says Damon West is the modern day Shawshank Redemption. For those who listen to the show quite a bit, I mentioned Shawshank quite a bit, and it's one of my favorite movies. And it's got so many different layers of me. And when I really got it was when I was watching Shawshank when I was at Leavenworth, and I really got all the layers of the meaning of that movie. But wow, let me give you a little bit of rundown on Damon West. He was sentenced to 65 years in prison, a Texas prison, but what he has done since he has been out, I'm going to give you some background. Damon West, he's college professor of criminal justice, internationally known keynote speaker, 3-time Wall Street Journal best-selling author. His best-selling business book, The Coffee Bean, A Simple Lesson to Create Positive Change, was listed by Forbes in the top 20 books you need to read to crush 2020. His autobiography, The Change Agent, how a former college QB sentenced to life in prison transformed his world, vividly tells how he transformed the pot of boiling water that is a Texas maximum security prison into his pot of coffee. At 20 years old, he was a Division I starting quarterback at the University of North Texas when he suffered a career-ending injury, and he turned into hardcore drugs to cope with disappointments of his life. When he was introduced to methamphetamines, he became instantly hooked, and the lives of so many innocent people would be forever changed by the choices he made in order to feed his insatiable meth habit. After a fateful discussion during his incarceration with a seasoned inmate, Damon had a spiritual awakening. Damon emerged from over 7 years of prison a changed man. His story of redemption and grit and determination continues to inspire us this day. And listen to the people that he's spoken to with his Coffee Bean message. He's spoken to Walmart, State Farm, sports teams like the Dallas Cowboys, the Minnesota Timberwolves, Clemson, Alabama, Georgia. The U.S. Army has even incorporated Be a Coffee Bean mindset into their resilience training. His Wall Street Journal best-selling book, The Locker Room, How Great Teams Heal Hurt, Overcome Adversity, and Build Unity, is being optioned for film adaptation. Wow. I can't wait to unpack all this with Damon. Before we do, I just want to recognize our show sponsor, Auto Plaza Direct. You know, who likes spending a couple of going and looking for cars? I gotta find my show sponsor deal here.
Good thing we're not live, right?
That's right. Who likes spending a couple of weekends walking car lots looking for a car, and then you spend 4 or 5 hours in the dealership to buy a car? It's kind of like a trip to the dentist. Well, there's a better way to take away all that pain and hassle of getting a car. It's called Auto Plaza Direct. They're your personal car concierge. Just tell them the car you want, what you can pay, and they'll go find that car for you. negotiate your best price. They also offer you warranties and financing. It's all full service. Go to autoplazadirect.com to get started with your personal car concierge, the new hassle-free way, the car buying experience you deserve. Auto Plaza Direct. Tell them Brent from Nightmare Success sent you. Damon West, welcome in, my man. How are you doing?
Dude, Brent, I am doing so well. And like the conversation we had off air, it's like one of the, so many times this happens too. And maybe I'll learn from it. Like, I wish we were recording that. Because we had a great back and forth. I learned some stuff about you, and I always want to learn about the host. And man, I just love your story because you've overcome what I think is the most serious adversity you can face, and you've become a better version of yourself as a result of it. So I love being around people like that, and I'm excited to mix it up with you today, brother.
I love it, man. I can't wait to jump into this. I know a lot about the stuff that happened with you from your college forward. Can you tell us a little bit, Damon, about growing up, the young Damon West, how, your mom, dad, siblings, all that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this is in this story, this actually comes up when I'm in my parole interview, and this is in 2015. I've been in prison for 7 years at this point, and we'll get into the whole thing. I got sentenced to life in prison for engaging in organized criminal activity, RICO. I went down for a RICO case in the state of Texas, and I was the mastermind, the ringleader of the entire RICO organization. So I took the hit hard, and I was guilty of everything they said, right? So I get it. The way the law is written, I'm guilty of everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm at this parole interview, and the lady from parole she's flipping through they call it your jacket. Your jacket's got everything about you. She's flipping through my jacket, this file. And after about 20 seconds, she closes the file. She pushes it away from her. And she says, Mr. West, I really came here today to ask you one question for this parole hearing. But the answer to my question is not in the file about the guy that I'm reading about who committed all those crimes in Dallas, Texas, all those years ago. And the crimes that I committed, Brent, were property crimes. I mean, I was a meth addict breaking into people's homes, and I was the leader of a bunch of other meth addicts breaking homes. And none of these crimes are physical aggravated crimes, meaning there was no physical victim. I never saw my victims. They never saw me. No one was physically hurt. No weapons were used. So these are not violent crimes. But she's saying that the answer to the question I want to ask you today isn't in this file. She said, we honestly don't see a lot of Damon West come through the Texas criminal justice system because you had it all. You had every advantage, every privilege, every opportunity over everybody else your entire life. She said, honestly, you're the definition of a privileged person in this country. And she read that file correctly, Brent. I mean, I had it all, brother. I mean, I grew up in this little Southeast Texas town called Port Arthur, Texas. Port Arthur is down where Louisiana and Texas touch down to the Gulf Coast. Little blue collar town, little refinery town. Came from a great family. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a sports writer. My dad, he made history in Texas. In 1971, he was the first sports writer in Southeast Texas to put black athletes on the front page of a sports page. 1971, first time it ever happens, man. And when my dad puts a black running back for Port Arthur Lincoln High School on the cover of the sports page, people lose their minds over that back in 71, man. They're breaking my dad's windows out. They slit his tires. They send my dad hate mail. But let me tell you what my dad did with all the hate mail. When I was a little boy growing up in the 80s, he comes down one day from the attic. He's got this box. It's got all these envelopes, all these letters in it. It was all the hate mail that he received from back in the 70s. And he sits me down on the couch as a child, and he makes me read every letter of hate mail, every nasty negative word that people say about my father and my mother, because my dad puts a black guy on the cover of sports page. But my dad told me this. He said, Damon, I want you to see what it looks like to take a stand and do the right thing. Because he said sometimes, Damon, in life, taking a stand and doing the right thing means you're going to stand alone. But he said it's always okay to stand alone as long as you're standing on the right side of history. And this is you get this because you've been to prison. This is the principle I'm going to rebuild an entire life on, standing on the right side, standing alone, right? But at 7, 8 years old, I'm not really understanding what the principle is here. But 25 years later, it comes into full play. I was a good student growing up, but I was a great athlete. God blessed me with a cannon for a right arm. And down here in Texas, we got this little thing y'all may have heard about called high school football. It's actually
Friday Night Lights.
Friday Night Lights, brother. And it is no joke. I mean, if anything, the movie downplays it a little bit. It is intoxicating to grow up in. It's over the top. I'll give you that. It's way over the top.
Damon, I can't imagine, because I was thinking about your life, reading up on you, and What is it like to be a guy with a rifle cannon arm as a quarterback in Texas? And
Man.
I mean, because everybody goes to high school, and a lot of guys, are pretty good, in different sports, but being a quarterback in Texas in high school, what does that feel like?
Honestly, it was like touching a live wire. And for a guy like me, man, I loved the attention it got. I mean, honestly, to be totally candid, I don't know if I've ever said this on a podcast. The only reason I started playing quarterback in junior high was because the quarterback was the guy that got all the attention, man. All the girls like the quarterback, right? So I was like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. And I started working really hard at it. And, but I saw that, the quarterback is the leader, man. He's the smartest guy on the field. He's he knows what all 22 people are doing.
Right.
If you're really doing it the right way, it's a very cerebral position. But honestly, growing up in Texas and being the quarterback of a high school football team, football is everything in the state of Texas. I mean, and on Friday nights, the town, they come to worship, really. I mean, in these stadiums are like cathedrals that you're in. Texas high school football has $200-300 million stadiums in it, man. They pass bonds in Texas to build stadiums that colleges don't even have.
Mm-hmm.
And you're growing up in that, and the whole town's attention is on you. The coach's attention on you. But I'll tell you a side effect from this thing that wasn't good for me is that, and I knew it too, and I would play into it, is I was Teflon, brother. There is nothing that I could do to really get in trouble. The consequences of my decisions, I didn't have to feel those. I was the quarterback. I'm the man. What are you going to do? You're going to bench me? I mean, it's like, so I was arrogant. I was cocky, full of myself. 3 years starting quarterback for a 5A school, right? And 5A was the biggest division.
That's huge.
Yeah, to be a 3-year starter, it's unheard of.
Yeah,
it's not unheard of. It's hard to do.
Hard.
It's not unheard of. People do it. But I got a scholarship to play football at the University of North Texas, Division I college football. And by the time I'm 20, I'm the starting quarterback, Brent. I have shown that I can do it at the high school, at the highest level of Texas high school. Now I'm in Division I college football, and by the time I'm 20, my redshirt sophomore year, I'm the starting quarterback for a Division I team. And, man, my head was this big, man.
Sure.
But life has a way of giving us these days that I call fork in the roads.
Yeah.
Fork in the roads are different, right? Those are the hard days. You get knocked down, you get back up, you dust yourself off. But you got a choice to make at the fork in the road. You either make the right choice to go the right way or the wrong choice to go the wrong direction. My fork in the road in my entire life happens, Brent, on September 21st, 1996. We're playing Texas A&M that day. I'm 20. We're playing in College Station. Great place to play a football game. College.
God, yeah.
And I've played at LSU at this point, Alabama, Oklahoma, Arizona State. Jake Plummer was the quarterback. Pat Tillman was on defense on that team.
Yeah.
But there I am driving my team down the field against the Aggies. Third play of this game in 1996, I go down. It's a career-ending injury. Never play college football again. And when I get up to this fork in the road in life and football's gone, my identity was gone with it. I made the mistake of wrapping my identity up into something external. And that's when the chemicals start happening. The drugs come into life. Because the hallmark of being an addict is you can't live life on life's terms.
Yeah.
And I start putting in the chemicals to change the way I feel. It's cocaine, it's ecstasy, it's pills. But I was a functional addict. Yeah, I functioned. I mean, I was highly functional. I graduate college. I work in Congress in Washington, D.C. I work for a guy running for president of the United States. 2004, I moved back to Dallas to be a stockbroker for UBS, one of the biggest banks in the world. And it was at that job as a broker in 2004 that another broker turns me on to methamphetamine one day when he sees me sleeping at work. And, honestly, after that, my life and the lives of so many other innocent people would forever be changed.
It's so incredible how you just told that story, because I interviewed a guy, Kyle Kilasing. He was as a teenager, he was number 2 to Tiger Woods. He was the number 1 player in Hawaii, and he had everything. And he tells almost the exact same story on the meth part of it, because it was all over the island and he never touched it. And it was that one day, and it changed his life forever. And that's such a powerful, that drug can absolutely, talking about forks in the road, I mean, it changes everything.
And when I'm doing my presentations, because I speak all over the world telling my story and the story of the coffee bean, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Yeah.
But when I get to this part of the story, it's another fork in the road, right? Because
Yeah.
the football game where my career ends is a fork in the road because my identity is wrapped up in being a football player. I've lost my identity. And in order to cope, I get into drugs and I become an addict. And when I try meth for the first time, it was like touching a live wire. You know, I'm instantly hooked just like that. And I couldn't give everything away fast enough for that drug. And that's what meth is one of the most evil, most destructive, most addictive drugs ever created by man. It's made in a lab. It's made to chemically get you hooked.
It's made to do it. Right.
Yeah. I smoked it one time. Boom. Instantly hooked. And I start giving everything away because that's what addicts do, Brent.
Mm-hmm.
We give things away. The addict's addiction in a nutshell. I work a 12-step program recovery today. I go to my meetings all the time. I got a sponsor. I work the steps. I'll do this for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But addiction in a nutshell is this. Addicts give up their goals to meet their behaviors. Mm-hmm. That's what addicts do. We give up our goals to meet our behaviors. Driven people, focused people, successful.
That's such a strong statement. That is powerful.
Yes. That's like, you know, people say, well, I'm not an alcoholic, right? Well, it just depends. I mean, do you give up your goals to meet your behaviors? You know, and if you're giving up goals, and you could be addicted to anything, Brent. I mean, we're not just talking about drugs and alcohol, food, money, clothing, shopping, sex, gambling, pornography, internet, the Instagram, the internet, whatever it is. Addicts give up their goals to meet their behaviors. Driven people, focused people, successful people, they'll give up a bad behavior to meet their goal, but not addicts. We just give things away.
What a great nugget of wisdom there. That's strong.
And I gave it all away. I gave up my job, my home, my car, my savings account, my family, my tethering to God. In 18 months, I go from working on Wall Street to living on the streets of Dallas. Homeless, living in dope houses, sleeping in cars, become a criminal at this point. And it's petty crimes at first. It's shoplifting, breaking into cars, breaking into storage units. Then eventually I'm breaking into people's homes. And this is a serious crime too. I don't want to underscore this at all. This is the ugly part of the story we have to talk about. My victims. When I broke into my victims' homes, I didn't just steal property from my victims, Brent. I stole something way more valuable from them. I stole their sense of security. And that's something they'll never get back. And I can't replace it. I can't fix it. I can't change it. I can't even apologize to. The state of Texas told me it's a felony to apologize to the victim of one of your crimes. They will send you back to prison if you make an apology to your victims. So my victims live with that for the rest of their lives. But after 3 years of committing property crimes against the people of Dallas, Texas, a Dallas SWAT team on July 30th, 2008, puts an end to the Uptown burglaries. The day that SWAT arrested me, or a shift in mindset, you talk about the nightmare scenarios and going through it. A SWAT team coming through your living room is definitely a bad day. But I look now in life, I'm always looking for the opportunity and the adversity. What's the opportunity that life has given me through this adverse situation? And the SWAT team coming in, now after all these years looking back, I realized that the Dallas SWAT team did not just arrest me that day. They rescued me that day. They pulled me out of a situation, Brent, that I can't get myself out of. And in fact, the angels in my story don't have wings. My angels have assault rifles, shields, helmets. They're coming through the window. They bust the door off the hinges to pull me out of that world that I was in. The Dallas SWAT team saved me that day, Brent.
What were you thinking, Damon? I mean, having something like that happen, with the guns drawn, breaking the door down. I mean, first of all, did you think anything like that was getting ready to happen, or was it just a total surprise and your world changed forever from there?
Knew it was coming. In fact,
it was coming.
I'm sitting on the couch with my dope dealer, this guy named Tex, and I'm telling Tex, you got to get out of here. He's coming to bring me some dope, right? But I'm telling Tex, man, drop the dope off, get out of here, go. The cops are closing on me. The end is near. 10 days before this, July 20th, July 21st, they pick up my partner in crime, this guy named Dustin. Now, Dustin was my right-hand man. Dustin knew everything about the criminal operation. And Dustin is in the custody of the Dallas Police Department for 10 days. You know what I know about crime. Everybody talks. Yeah. Everybody talks, brother. If people didn't talk, the crimes wouldn't be solved. The law enforcement would have such a difficult job of doing their job, but their job is made easier because everybody talks. It's human nature,
Yep.
When prosecutors start throwing out a bunch of years at people,
scares them to death.
everybody, oh, it's human nature. And so
Yep.
just as I'm telling Tex to get out of here, man, I'm passing the pipe back to him, and the window on my right blows out and shatters. And then tumbling across the floor in that living room is a little canister going end over end, and it's smoking on one side. Man. And I mean, it's like, and it's almost like things slow down to like a slow motion scene. Cause I've seen this scene in a movie. Your brain can instantly react to something and say, oh my God, oh shoot, I know what this is. And the flashbang grenade blows up in my face. And when I could see and hear again, there's a cop standing over me in full SWAT riot gear. His boot is on my chest, the barrel of an assault rifle in my eye socket. And he's screaming, don't move, don't move. And I'm like, man, don't worry. Don't worry.
I'm not moving.
And I knew it was over. I knew they finally had me. In fact, one of the officers screamed out loud, we got him. We got the uptown burglar. That was what they called me. Before they knew exactly who I was the uptown burglar. And they did. They had me, man. That was the end of the crime spree. And, you know, that day they brought me to justice. But I mean, like I said, they didn't just arrest me that day. They rescued me that day. I don't know what version of myself I'd be 16 years later right now if I was still out of the streets. I mean, if I wasn't dead, I'd be a version of myself not worth living.
I'm curious, Damon, at that time period that you were in, were your parents aware of what was going on in your life and how you were living your life? Or were you just living isolated, doing your thing and disconnected from everyone else that you were close to? Man,
that's a great question. So yeah, you've got a little expertise in this field. You understand. So when we are doing, I'll use an I statement. When I was doing things I knew that were wrong, that goes against the norms, the social norms that I was raised with. When I'm doing those things, well, I want to keep doing those things. So I'll remove myself from the people around me that would not be normally associated with those kind of bad behaviors, because I had bad belief systems. My parents, you know, they live 6 hours away. So most of the time they got their information from me when I would either answer the phone or call them. But I lied a lot. That's one of the things about being in addiction. You lie. Yeah. You're a manipulator. You're a liar. You do whatever you have to do to keep your life going. And my parents knew something was wrong. They just didn't know what it was. They couldn't put their finger on it. I mean, the only other option, I guess, is to kidnap me. They sent someone, a family friend, to have an intervention with me, and I didn't show up for the intervention. This is months before I got arrested. But you know, and my dad passed away last summer, and he was funny because he didn't really understand the disease of addiction. My mom got it. My mom was a nurse. She understood the disease part of it. But my dad would ask me, man, Damon, why didn't you just come home, man? Yeah. Why didn't you just leave Dallas and come back to Port Arthur? Just come on home. And I'm sitting in the presentation visitation room the first time he asked me, and I'm looking at him like he has a second head. I'm like, man, Dad, I don't know. I can't believe I didn't think about that. But the truth is, man, I'm not leaving my dope dealers. I'm not leaving this lifestyle. And Brand, it was crime. I mean, you get addicted to the crime too. I'd be lying if I tell you I didn't get high.
Had its own adrenaline rush.
The own adrenaline rush, right? Yeah. Of the procedure you go through, the ritual of getting ready to break into a place. I got really good at that too. You know, I had a 5th grade teacher tell me, Damon, you're going to be a leader one day. You're a natural born leader. You're going to lead people in the right way or the wrong way, but you're going to be a leader one day. I actually saw her a few months ago, and her name was Ms. Greenberg. I was like, hey, Ms. Greenberg, I did it both ways in life. I did the bad way, and now I'm doing the good way. So I came around.
What a great meeting that would have been.
Yeah.
So, okay. So Damon, they take you away. You're in custody. What happens from here on out? I mean, because now you're in the world of the unknown.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, so first of all, when I get into Dallas County Jail, all I want to do is get out and get high again. Right. I'm being driven by the fact that I'm scared, this new environment that I'm in. I've never been in before. But I'm also coming down off of meth. And for 3-4 years, I haven't gone more than a couple of days without it getting high. You know, I'm doing meth every single day for years at a time. Now I'm detoxing. I'm just coming off cold turkey. So one of the things I tell people all the time is that criminals are stupid. We do a lot of stupid things, right?
Yeah.
And I want to tell you that I got good at the burglary game. I did, man. And I had ways of like going undetected. One of the first burglaries I ever did, I broke into a U.S. post office and stole a mailman uniform.
Oh my gosh.
Now I was dressed up like the mailman, right? I could go around with impunity to these condo buildings and these neighborhoods because no one knows what their mailman looks like. And a mailman gets up close, man. He can see a lot of, he or she can see a lot of stuff. So, but criminals are stupid. I'm in Dallas County Jail and I want out. Now I'm calling everybody from the dope world that owes me money. My bond at the time when I first got arrested was $250,000. They were holding me on the bond for this one organized crime charge. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to put together all the evidence and people are talking. Dustin's talking.
Sure.
Tex that was there that day of the SWAT team. He's talking. He's been to prison before. He doesn't want to go back. Right. So they're trying to put it all together. The biggest witness against me at my trial was me. And I didn't take the stand. Those jailhouse recordings, man.
Wow.
I am I'm on the phone, man, in that jail. And I'm like Jerry Lewis holding a telethon, brother. I'm calling everybody that owes me money in the dope world, man. You owe me money for this job that we did, man. I need you to bring it down here and bond me out. Like, there's no honor among thieves. There's nobody in the dope world that's going to come to the police station and come drop off $10,000.
Connecting all the dots while you're making the phone calls.
I'm being a fundraiser. Ironically, in my past life, I was a political fundraiser. But man, the cops are listening to these calls. And all they're doing, every time I talk to one of these people, they're going and picking up that person off the street that I was talking to. They're going and plucking them because I'm leading them. And I'm giving them the probable cause they need. I'm the dumbest criminal in the world at this point. And when I get to my trial, before each one of these people would come take the stand against me, because I led them to all the people that testified against me, they would play the phone recording. And I sound like this mob boss, man. And that's what Dallas County really put this. I mean, when they put this together, they thought it out really well because they wanted to leave drugs out of the conversation and make it look like I'm just this sinister mob boss. They're calling me the Al Capone of Dallas, Tony Soprano, you know? And if you listen to the tapes, I sound like that. You know, hey, you owe me this money for this hit. I've done all this stuff for you. You know, where are you now?
Right.
But all these different people are coming and testifying against me because while I'm in Dallas County Jail, I'm stacking up the evidence against me. And, you know, that's what I did for a long time in Dallas County Jail first couple of months. And finally, I realized that there's no help. No one's coming to get me out. My bond, it was crazy. After those phone calls and being in jail for about a month, I got woken up in the middle of the night. They can bring you indictments anytime, right? When you're in county jail, they know where to find you. They know how to go serve you. I got like 15 indictments in one night. And what these indictments are for, and this is what people learn the hard way about the criminal justice system, is every indictment has a bond attached to it. My bond, and these indictments are like for theft charges, stuff that they found on Dustin at Dustin's apartment when they raided him 10 days before me. They're putting all that on me because it's organized crime now. It's the law of parties. Anything he's done, they can stack on me. So I'm getting hit with all these little theft charges, stuff like that. But my bond goes from $250,000 to $1.4 million overnight. And after it did that, that's a no bond, man. There's no way I'm getting out. I mean, I was trying to raise $25,000 at 10% of a $250,000 bond. But I mean, I don't even know how you get to 1.4 million, man. So there I am sitting in Dallas County Jail. I'm coming off the dope. That means I'm eating a lot. I'm sleeping a lot. I'm depressed. I'm putting on weight. And in fact, when I would check into prison a year later, I was 135 pounds, about 65 pounds I put on in Dallas County Jail. Just coming off the dope, putting on weight, being depressed. The trial, look, man, Dallas County, they made me one offer right before trial, and that offer was for 50 years. Now, Brent, you can't sign for 50 years.
No.
Man. In Texas, the maximum sentence you can get is 60. Juries don't understand that because they don't want juries doing calculation if they're going to sentence you, right? But 60 years is a life sentence in the state of Texas. That's a natural life sentence.
Oh, yeah.
And so they made me an offer of 50 right before trial. Of course, I turned it down because if you sign for your time, which 95% of the people in state criminal cases sign for time, they take a plea deal. And in federal cases, it's more like 98%.
Exactly.
That means 95% of the people in the state, 90%, 98% of the people in the federal system they never get to realize their Sixth Amendment right to counsel. It's one of your constitutional rights you give up.
Yeah.
And that's the way the system works, like a machine with teeth. You just grind people out all the time because prosecutors, and we'll get back to this in a little bit, but prosecutors in the American criminal justice system have way too much power.
Sure they do.
And this is something I learned whenever, and look, I'm not just saying this from some ex-con that got out and said, hey, man, the system's broken. No, I did everything they said I did. All right? I got my time and I'm doing my time. I got it. But I went back to school and got a master's degree in criminal justice. And I've become a professor at the University of Houston teaching a class called Prisons in America. I wanted people to take me more serious when I talked about this stuff. So I went and got a master's degree.
I love that.
Yeah. And so now it's Professor West instead of like Inmate West. Right. But that's a long way away. We got to get to the trial. So the trial takes place 10 months after my arrest. Now, Brent, if they can get you in a courtroom for a trial, ramping up for trial is tough. There's a lot of moving parts for a trial. 10 months, that's called the rocket docket. That means they want you in that courtroom. They've got so much of the goods on you. And my trial for organized crime lasts 6 days. And 6 days is a long criminal trial for property crimes. Man, no one was hurt physically. There wasn't anybody that can attest to like me physically hurting them. Right. But evidence was just so overwhelming. One confession after another from everybody in the organized crime spree. And you know, the victims of the burglaries are up there on the stand and they're telling their stories. And it's just, I know it's going to be bad. But when I realized it was so late in the game, how bad it was going to be. It was during jury deliberations. It's interesting because we're having this conversation the day after ex-President Trump just got convicted in New York, and he's now a convicted felon like you and I. Right. But jury deliberations for him lasted, 2 days? My jury deliberations, Brent, lasted 10 minutes.
Oh, my God.
Oh, Damon. Man. 10 minutes, man. Dude, and I don't know how much Law and Order your audience watches, but if a jury's gone for 10 minutes, it means they smoked you. Like, they sat around the last half of that trial just waiting for it to be over. They knew what their verdict, knew what they were going to sentence me to. And when they brought me back in the courtroom, the judge read the sentence out loud. He said, Damon Joseph West, you are hereby sentenced to 65 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Oh, man. And 65 years, as we know, is a life sentence in the state of Texas. So the jury gave me life, Brent. First felony conviction ever. That's another thing those teachers told me growing up. You're going to do things big, Damon.
What went through your mind with that 65 years standing there hearing that?
Honestly, the first thing I thought about is crazy what you think about when something's going on, like the trauma, your brain, how it deals with it. The first thing I thought about was like, oh, man, my mom and my dad heard that. They're in the front row. Next thing I thought about is I'll never vote again. Like, oh, man, like I'm suddenly worried about being able to vote again. But then, you know, everything slows down. The shock is wearing off. And then you're realizing I just got life in prison and I don't even know how to process it. But the first seconds, I'm like, my parents heard that. I'm not voting again. You're thinking about all the things that happen when you become a convicted felon and you're going to prison. Yeah. But fast, very quickly, is like, wait, they said life. They said, I'm going for life. And I was shocked. I was stunned. I knew I was going to get hammered. I just didn't understand how bad, you know. And I found out, Brent, from going to become a professor and getting a master's degree in criminal justice, that the jury system in America, it's not a perfect system, right? But it's the system we have. And I would argue that it's better than what you find in most places. I'm not going to say it's the best there is, but it's better than you find in most places. And it's a system we have, and the system does work. But juries in America, when they sentence people to a lot of time like that, it's usually for one or two reasons, or maybe both of these reasons. One is that they're really afraid of the person that's at the defendant's table. Right. Or two, they're really mad at the person at the defendant's table. The jury wasn't afraid of me, Brent. They were mad at me. Mad because we're back to where the story started. Sitting across from them as the most privileged guy you can imagine. And this guy chose this path. And, you know, the drugs weren't really a big part of the trial. They didn't want that to be a big part of the trial. But the truth is, Brent, I would never do the stuff I did to my victims if it wasn't for being intoxicated, being on meth, and breaking into people's homes. I've got a family now, Brent. I've got a wife. I've got a stepdaughter. I've got pets. I've got I mean, my mom lives with me now.
Guy.
Yeah, I'm just a normal guy. And I can't imagine somebody doing to me
breaking into your house
what I did to so many people.
Yeah,
and it's a real, like it is. I get it why the jury sentenced me, and I accept it, and it's mine to carry with me.
Oh,
but it's one of those things, you know. It's the nightmare. You know, if you're talking about when I realized the nightmare started, it's that day. In fact, in my book, The Change Agent, it starts out with that chapter. That chapter is called Rock Bottom, because when I was sentenced to life in prison on May 18th, 2009, that was the rock bottom moment for me. But rock bottom, Brent, is also a good place to build a new life from. It could be a great foundation.
And I think that's such a big point, Damon, because I often say most people think hitting rock bottom is the end. And I remember my rock bottom moment, like, you know, vividly. And there's two places to go with rock bottom. You curl up in a fetal position and never come back, or it's your new beginning and you start figuring out how to climb out and you know what rock bottom feels like. And some people never hit rock bottom, but you know, rock bottom is a place where that's like you were talking about. There's a real fork there. You get busy living, you get busy dying.
Yeah, the words of Andy Dufresne, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting you bring up Shawshank, and I remember this from your introduction, how you talk about it sometimes. I didn't, and it makes you realize that most people don't have a full grasp of Shawshank, probably just watching it as a movie. It's a great drama, a great story. But there's really something bigger going on in Shawshank that I didn't understand either until I got out of prison, and I'm sitting watching Shawshank with my dad. My dad recorded every prison movie while I was in prison. And when I got out, I lived with my parents for 2 years, man. And for the first couple of months, we watched a different prison movie every night. He recorded them all. I was like, hey, man, tell me who got it right. And I always come back to Shawshank because Shawshank got it right. And here's what they got right about prison. Prison is a hopeless place, right? And when you remove hope, there's a void there. And in that void, negativity, evil, and darkness usually fills that void. That's why prisons are so dangerous, Brent, because there's no hope inside of a prison.
Exactly. You can do a lot of things when you don't have hope.
Oh, yeah. And it can be a very dangerous world, and you don't want to live in a world where there's no hope. And the movie, the title, The Shawshank Redemption, the redemption part of the title, redemption wasn't for the character named Andy Dufresne. Right. Andy didn't need redeeming. Andy needed escaping, right? He's an innocent man. He needed to get out, man. He wasn't supposed to be caged like that. For over 10 years, he tunnels his way through a wall. He swims through a sewer to get to his freedom. But the redemption part of the title, the story is about the guy named Red, Morgan Freeman's character. And why I think it's Red's movie and not Andy's movie, because Red, our narrator, when we meet him, Red is a dead man walking. Red has no hope. All those men in Shawshank were dead, Brent. They all had no hope. Like Brooks. Remember Brooks?
He killed himself after he got out.
After 50 years, he finally makes parole, but he lasts 2 weeks, Brent. He hangs himself. But he wrote a letter back to the boys in Shawshank, told him what he did and why he did it. And as Andy was reading that letter out to the boys in Shawshank Prison, every man in Shawshank Prison, they nodded because they understood the same mindset that Brooks, because they all shared that same hopeless mindset. But it was Red, our narrator, that explains it for us when he says, I wouldn't make it out there either. I'm an institutional man now. He says the words out loud for us to really understand hope is a dangerous thing. Now, Brent, you've lived in this world. I've lived in this world where people believe hope, the thing you have to survive, is dangerous. But Andy told Red, he said, get busy living or get busy dying. And by the end of the movie, when Red finally gets out, Red, we don't know if Red's going to make it either.
No.
He walks around the pawn shop, sees the guns in the window.
Same track.
Same track, same room that Brooks was in. He sees where Brooks was here on the wall up there. But he makes it to that rock wall that Andy told him to make it to. And then he finds the note that his buddy left him behind. And in that note are those powerful words. He said, hope is a good thing, Red. And if you go back and rewatch the movie Shawshank, I challenge people to do this all the time. Go back and watch the last scene of that movie. Listen to the dialogue of Red, the character at the end, versus Red the character at the beginning. Every single sentence, Brent, that starts out, Red saying, I hope for this and I hope for that.
And he says, I hope.
That's it. You got it. You nailed it, brother. The last words of the movie are "I hope," and that's a statement. You can put an exclamation point on that, brother.
So powerful. And the other thing that I think that people, the fact that Andy had Zawantaneo in his head. I even like the name Zawantaneo. It's just a cool name. But 19 years of chipping away at a wall in a prison cell to get to your freedom, and then every day he'd let that wall out as his daily victory, that he was staying on task. That Zawantaneo kept him being Andy. It kept him being who he didn't become institutionalized. Zawantaneo stayed in his head, and he was getting to that. And I think it's so important for people to have that Zawantaneo, as hard as it is to take time to figure out what it is that your Zawantaneo, what would make you chip through 19 years at a prison wall to get to your freedom, and with that daily victory, letting that wall out. There's so many deep meanings in that movie, but I think we hit on some here. It's a powerful, powerful statement of how to live your life.
Brent, I found my Zawantaneo moment in Dallas County Jail. So right after the trial was over, my parents have a visit with me. They give them one last visit with me, right? And it's behind the glass. And my mom tells me, hey, look, you made some big mistakes, but you owe a big debt now because you did everything they said you did. But here's the debt you owe your father and I. When you go to prison, you're not going to get one of these white hate groups, one of these Aryan Brotherhood type of gangs. You're not getting any tattoos while you're inside that prison. So, literally I came out with no tats. None. I got no tattoos, man. Because my mom told me that day, she said, Damon, no gangs, no tattoos. You come back as the man that we raised, or don't come back to us at all. And she was dead serious, man. And I'm like floored. And, you're talking about things slowing down in the moment. And I'm like, and I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I know that I got to promise my mom I'll do it. So I promised her that day. They bring me back to my pod in Dallas County Jail. I got 2 months before the prison bus comes to get me. And I'm frantically asking every guy who's been to prison before, how am I going to survive? What am I going to do? And every guy I talk to, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, they're all telling me the same thing. You got to get into a gang. You won't survive when you're going without a gang. I'm going where the lifers go, Brent. In Texas,
different deal.
Yeah, you get life in Texas. They segregate you out. You go to a supermax prison, the highest secure level prison there is, and they move you to a building with all lifers. And it's about 500 people on the building. Every man's got life. Most are never going home. Think about how hopeless a world like that is, man.
Yep.
Dangerous, too. Everybody's telling me you got to get into a gang. But there was this one guy that was so different, this older black man named Muhammad. And Muhammad's what you call a career criminal, man. He's been in and out of prison his entire life, but he's the most positive guy I've ever met in my life. And this guy has a smile on his face everywhere he goes. And every morning he comes up and checks on me. So one morning he comes up and time is short. He's getting ready to leave Dallas County Jail on bond. I'm getting ready to get the prison bus getting ready to come get me. And he says, I've been watching how you're dealing with these knuckleheads and these dummies, talk about you got to get into a gang. But he said, don't listen to these fools. He said, but I'm going to tell you what prison's going to be like. And that's when he really laces me up. And he's telling me everything in there is about race. Race runs the entire institution inside of prison. This is a black Muslim man telling me this, man. He's telling me, beware, but when you walk in the door, it will be the white gangs that get the first dibs on you. And he's telling me you're going to fight all the white gangs. If you survive that, you fight the black gangs. And he even told me the white gangs will send the black gangs after me. And everybody works in unison to get you where you're supposed to go because the inmates want this to be about race. Everybody in there is supposed to be in their own racial group. But he said, you made a promise to your mom. You chose the steepest path possible, but here's the deal. You can survive this, and here's how you're going to do it. He told me, I want you to imagine prison as a pot of boiling water. And he said, anything we put in this pot of boiling water will be changed by the heat and the pressure inside that pot. He said, I'm going to put 3 things in that pot of boiling water and watch how they change. A carrot, an egg, and a coffee bean. Now, Brent, this is where I first hear the story of the coffee bean. Now, not everybody, but a lot of people know the story of the coffee bean now. John Gordon and I in 2019, we write this best-selling book on the coffee bean right before a global pandemic hits. And the book is in every language. It's pretty much in every language in the world. And the whole world became a pot of boiling water, and the whole world.
Absolutely. Everybody got locked down.
Yeah. And so the coffee bean message became very popular. And of course, my life took off as a speaker. I go speak all over the world telling the story of the coffee bean. But it all comes from this jail cell in Dallas County Jail. about this time of year, late May, early June in 2009. And he said, the carrot in the pot of boiling water goes in hard, but becomes soft. Mm-hmm. Some people become the carrot in life. They get beat down by life. It makes them soft. He said, but you don't want to be the carrot inside of prison. He said, the egg in the same pot of boiling water will go in with that hard outer shell, that soft liquid core. The shell, he said, protects the egg on the outside, but the inside, the yolk, the heart becomes hard. Yeah, that's right, Brent. He said, now, if your heart becomes hardened, you're incapable of giving or receiving love. And he said, if you're incapable of giving or receiving love in the world you're going into, you don't come back as someone your parents recognize. But then he told me the story of the coffee bean, the smallest of the three things, the coffee bean that goes in the pot of boiling water, and it changed the pot of boiling water into a pot of coffee. It was the change agent. It was the only thing, Brent, he said, that could even change the water. Everything else is changed by the water because the power was inside the coffee bean to change the world around it. And he told me, he said, the coffee bean can't even do its job till the water gets the hottest. When the pressure is the highest, that's when the coffee bean performs. And he told me, if you want to come back on the other side of this thing, like you told your parents you would, you have to be like that coffee bean. In fact, the last words he ever says to me, man, he's bonding out of Dallas County Jail. The prison bus is getting ready to come get me. 4 words on the way out the door. He said, hey, West, be a coffee bean.
Wow.
Be a coffee bean, Brent. Those were the 4 words that became a Ziwantaneo moment, because that was the message. That was the thing that I thought about every single day inside that maximum security prison.
That is just so powerful, Damon. That hearing you say that again, that story, the way that you tell it is just, and for that to be that moment that you realized I'm going to be the change. And you know, let's take a break here because I want to recognize the White Collar Support Group, because I want to talk about how and what happened to you after this, because you don't have anything good coming this way. You're getting on a prison bus going to prison. Before we do that, I want to recognize the White Collar Support Group. Nightmare Success Podcast is sponsored by the White Collar Support Group. It's the world's first support group devoted to people navigating the white collar justice system. I'm a member of the White Collar Support Group, and I can tell you that this is a bunch of people who help each other through the criminal justice journey for free. For free. Whether you're just starting your journey or you've made it through to the other side, this is a great space for you. You can join us on Zoom, Mondays, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. For information, go to prisonist.org. That's prisonist.org. Start here. Okay, Damon, so when you get on that bus, but you're changed in the moment of this coffee bean, being the coffee bean, what happens next?
It's a baptism by fire, brother. This prison bus ride, and you know, you've been on the bus, man. Yeah, you're chained. I don't know how the feds do
shackled.
It, yeah, in this.
The funny thing was, Damon, I didn't get shackled until I had a civil trial a year and a half after I had been in prison, and I had to go back to that in St. Louis from Leavenworth. I had never been. I voluntarily surrendered. It was the first time, and I didn't know that it was going to happen. I didn't know that they transferred people like this. They didn't say anything to me about it. I got shackled up from my ankles to my waist to my hands.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, there was nothing more dehumanizing or making me feel like I'd hit it felt like I was a zoo animal. It was really something.
It's a hell of an experience. I think that a bus ride to prison would probably be enough to scare most people straight.
Mm-hmm.
And in Texas, these buses, there's no air conditioning on these buses, and it's like a school bus from hell. It is. It's a refurbished school bus. Every seat has 2 men sitting in it. They're handcuffed to each other. They handcuff you to another man. And Muhammad, the guy that told me the story of the coffee bean, he also told me what to expect. And he said, when they get ready to transport you, they take everybody to this room that's going to be catching the bus that day. And he said, they're going to pair you up with somebody. Unless you pair yourself up with somebody, they'll let you pick a busmate to ride with, right? Because it's beneficial for them too, because there's fights that break out on this bus. There's fear going. You could smell the fear on these buses. But he said, what you're looking for is you're looking for someone that's smaller than you, and you're looking for someone that's the same hand as you. Like you're right-handed, you want to find a right-handed person. Mm-hmm. And he said the way you're going to find out which hand they use is they're going to give y'all all a sack of food. They call it a Johnny sack. the Johnny Sack is your last meal before you get on the bus. He said, you're going to sacrifice some of your food to that guy that you find. And you find him and you go and offer him one of your sandwiches. They got 2 sandwiches in there. Give up one of your sandwiches, offer him some of your food, and ask him, can we ride together on the bus trip? Now you know that he's going to be shackled up next to you. He said, you get paired up with him on his right side, and all you're going to do is walk up 2 by 2, and they're going to handcuff your left arm to his right arm. Now, if this guy wants to make a move on the bus, you've just taken away his dominant arm, and you've got your dominant arm to fight with and survive with.
Wow.
Man, and I'm like, I've still got to get on this bus, dude. I'm like, oh, my God. And the bus rides are crazy, man. I mean, because, they're 10-hour bus rides. You're going around the state of Texas, going to county jails. You're picking up people in different county jails. 10 hours is a long time. You just eat. There's bathroom. Everybody's got to go to the bathroom in 10 hours. But you're shackled up to somebody. He goes to the bathroom. You're going to the bathroom, number 1 or 2. And it's a bucket in the back of the bus, man. And you still got to do some time after that. So it was a wild experience. The baptism by fire within 20 minutes of being classified into the life sentence building. I was in my first fight with the guy for the Aryan Brotherhood. And after that, it was just fighting. It was rock and roll for the first 2 months, brother. I probably got in 3 dozen fights in 2 months, and I lost 75% of those fights. But you know what? Muhammad told me something in county jail that was like one of those moments where he gave me the secret to something, and it was this. He said, you don't have to win all your fights, but you do have to fight all your fights. He said, some days you're going to win, some days you're going to lose. He said,
great life lesson.
Yeah, don't worry about the losses. Get up and fight again. The same is true in life, Brent. No one is counting your wins and losses. No one pays attention to you. We think people pay attention to us a lot. They don't. You keep track of wins and losses in your head, maybe, but everybody's watching to see, does he or she get back up when adversity hits? That's the real win in life.
Are they still fighting?
You just get back up. You get knocked down 8 times in life, get up 9. You keep getting back up. That's the real victory in life. And so after 2 months of fighting, the violence was finally over. The threat to my physical safety was gone. And I started working on myself and becoming that coffee bean. And, it was waking up every day in a dungeon with that positive attitude that, hey, I'm going to become the best version of myself possible today. I've got 24 hours today to do anything I want to become the best version of me. How do I fill this day up? How do I put more stuff in my bucket today? And I got to work on myself. And I'm telling you something, Brent, it was, I had a spiritual awakening inside of there. And that's the only way I can describe this, because what happened to me inside that prison over the 7 years that I was locked up, it's hard to describe on terms of what human beings are capable of on their own. Because I don't think a human being is capable of making a transformation like that on their own. You have to have a higher power. I don't know what your higher power is, what you believe in, and whatever you believe in is okay with me. You can believe in whatever you want. I'm a Christian, so my faith is with Christ, but there's a lot of different things to believe in out there. And I tell people all the time, find a higher power, because it's a big universe out there, and turn over your life and your will, your thoughts and your actions to that higher power, And that's what I did. I turned it over, man. And once I did that, I realized that, there's only 4 things I control in life. I control what I think, what I say, what I feel, and what I do. And if it wasn't one of those 4 things inside that prison, I didn't have control over it. And I stopped worrying about it. I started living in the moment. And whenever you live in the moment, you're there for 2 things every day that happen in your life. You're there for obstacles and opportunities. Now, if you live in the moment, you see an obstacle, you can step over it, step aside from it. You can dodge the obstacle. But if you don't live in the moment, that obstacle, it stays in your way, and it can get bigger and bigger, become like a wall you got to climb over. One of my obstacles was my weight. Remember, I put on like 65 pounds of fat inside Dallas County Jail, right? And my body's not made for that. And I tell people that are overweight, this was a small obstacle at one point, right? This is something where you looked in the mirror like, I might need to lose a few pounds, but you didn't do anything about it. You didn't have discipline. You didn't work at it. And in prison, that was one of the obstacles I had to get over. And I had to go back and work harder because I didn't pay attention to it. But the other thing about living in the moment, and why it was so important for me to learn that lesson in prison, is the opportunities. And here's what I learned about opportunities. If you don't live in the moment and you don't see the opportunity that's in front of you, you may never see that opportunity again, because an opportunity doesn't have to present itself twice. Right. It may never present itself again.
So, great point.
Oh yeah. So living in the moment, that was a big deal for me. And I started just developing these rules about being a coffee bean, having positive body language. Your body language is important, Brent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the expression in your face can change the energy around you. Muhammad told me, he said, you either infect a room that you walk into with negative energy or you affect the room with positive energy. You infect or affect. You're the disease of the cure in every room you're in. And so these ways of being a coffee bean, I go around talking about it when I do my presentations. And one of them is servant leadership. Servant leadership is helping other people reach their goals, helping to raise people up to a different station of life. And, main thing I want people to understand about my transformation and being a coffee bean is that your past does not define you. Right. The past doesn't matter, man. And when I say that, I'm not saying it's insignificant. I'm saying it's history. It's happened. It's fact.
Right. It's already gone. Right.
You can't change the facts. You can't change the past, and you can't live in your past either.
Right.
It's the reason why your windshield's bigger than your rearview mirror in a vehicle. You need a lot more room to look forward than you do to look backwards. That's right. Because you can't do it the other way around, Brent. You can't drive a vehicle going forward looking at the rearview mirror. If you did, you get into a wreck.
You're wrecked.
Yeah, you'd wreck. You did everything in the road in front of you. The same thing happens in life when we live in our past. You're going down the road of life. You look up in the rearview mirror. There's the past good things you've done. You're proud of. You look up again in that rearview mirror one day. There's the bad things you've done that you're not proud of.
Right.
Get out of the rearview mirror, man.
Yeah.
All it's going to do is cause your present and your future to be a bunch of wrecks.
Yep. So true. So, Damon, you doing all this in prison, feeling like you're getting it right in your mind. When does it come to you that you have an opportunity to get out of there?
Now we're back to the parole interview. The parole interview happened in 2015. I came up for parole at 7 years. And so the reason why I came up for parole at 7 years on a life sentence sounds absurd, right? You get sentenced to life in prison, but you're eligible for parole at 7 years. It's because my crimes were not aggravated. They weren't violent crimes. And nonviolent offenders in Texas have access to good time and work time. So I was building up more time on my sentence every day that I'm there and I behave, and every day that I'm there that I work. And so at 7 years, I come up for parole for the first time. I have zero expectation of making that first parole because it's very rare that they're going to let somebody out of prison in their first parole. But the lady from parole that interviewed me, where we started this conversation with the beginning, she told me, I have one question for you. And the question is not in this file. And we went over my entire life story, the whole story we just talked about right now. And she said, Mr. West, there's no doubt about the change you made to yourself. She said, no one can doubt that. You have become a different man in here. But the reason why we're having this meeting today is because you didn't just change yourself while you were inside this prison. You changed the entire prison. One man changed his prison. Now we're talking about an Andy Dufresne type deal, right?
That's powerful.
And and Andy and I are different than each other, right? Andy Dufresne in Shawshank, he was an innocent man. I was guilty of everything they said, but we were the same because we brought hope. We changed the world with hope, right? Positive energy, hope, being a coffee bean. And so she said, you changed this entire prison around you. She said, so my question for you is this, Mr. West. And she said, think really hard about this answer because your life depends on it. If you could be remembered for being anything in the world, anything at all, she said, tell me what that would be, but give it to me in just one word, go. And Brent, man, I'd been living that answer for the entire time I've been in prison. I became that coffee bean. That Ziwantaneo was right in front of me now. And I fired her answer back at her without hesitation. And I said, useful. I just want to be useful.
Love it.
Because Brent, I believe that every human being, at the core of being a human being, that's what we want. Yeah. We want to be useful. Hell, I think every human being wants two things from life. We want to belong and we want to be loved. Yeah. That's what we want at the core of being human. That's how I changed that prison. And they sent me back that day. I didn't get the answer right then, but that was the answer that got me out of prison. November 16th, 2015, I walked out of a Texas prison. Now, not a free man, because I've got a little more time left on parole in Texas. I'm on parole until the year 2073. I'm on parole. Yeah, I'm on supervised release the rest of my life. But man, what a blessing to be on parole, right? People ask me all the time, like, man, how do you do it? You're on parole. How do I do it? Every day that I wake up and my feet don't hit the cold concrete floor of that prison cell, I'm winning, you know?
Absolutely.
And so I don't mind being on parole. I mean, I got to check in every month. I pee in the cup. I pay my fines. I can't make a mistake. I've got my second chance. I don't get a third. But, man, my life ever since I walked out has been impactful. And I can't believe this is my life. Like, I got out. I knew I was still in this great message of the coffee bean. The great message of the coffee bean and my story around it. I just lived it. But the thing about that is that I didn't have a lot of places to share the story when I first got out of prison. I found out real quick, you can't go knock on the door of a high school and say, I just got out of prison. I want to talk to you. They run you down the street, man. They chase
you
me
did what? You're who?
And so I had to have people believe in me first. And here's what I will tell you. Growth follows belief. Growth follows belief. But you have to believe in yourself before anybody's going to believe in you.
Mm-hmm.
Before anybody's going to give you the belief, you got to believe in yourself. And I just needed an opportunity, man. And I thought that right opportunity would come from speaking in front of college football teams, because I played college football back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Man, for 2 years that I was living in my parents' spare bedroom, there weren't a lot of places for me to speak. But in that spare bedroom, there was a mirror in there. Just happened to be there when I moved in, a little vanity mirror. I practiced this presentation, the presentation I do in front of audiences now.
Yeah.
I practiced it for 2 years in front of a mirror. I got in my reps, Brent. Anything you want to be good at in life, you got to practice.
Yeah, I got to do the reps. Yeah.
You got to get the reps in, man. So if I don't have a physical place to speak, I spoke in front of that mirror for 2 years. A buddy of mine sneaks me into this coaches award show in 2017.
I love this story.
Yeah.
You know what's really cool about this story, Damon? Because I was thinking, because speaking is hard. You know, it's being on stage and speaking is not nearly as hard as getting the opportunity to speak on stage. And I love this story that you're getting ready to tell, because if you hadn't had the belief that you were good enough to be in that room with those coaches, you would have never gotten the opportunity for one of them to say, God, that guy, he's awfully confident. He sure does believe in himself. I think I'm going to give him a shot.
You just hit the nail on the head. And when we come to who the coach was, I had a conversation with him years later, and I asked him, why did you do it? Why did you let me in?
Yeah.
He said, I saw the belief in your eyes, man.
Yeah.
He said, there was no denying that. He said, let me tell you. You
got to tell the story.
Yeah, see if anybody guesses who it is. So this buddy of mine in Houston, which is 90 miles away, calls me up one day in 2017. He said, man, it's the Bear Bryant Coach of the Year award. They're going to the best college football coach in America is about to be named that night. The 8 best coaches in the country were in this room. USC, Wisconsin,
everybody.
Penn State, PJ Fleck, they're all there. And he said, I've got an extra press pass. I'll sneak you in. It's at Toyota Center in Houston. He works for the media. So, man, I had to drive an hour and a half to get there after work. I practice my elevator pitch, what I'll tell these coaches when I see them. And he sneaks me in the back door, hands me a press pass, and there I am. I'm talking to all these coaches, and I'm shaking their hand. I'm giving my pitch. You should bring me in to talk to your team. And every single coach I met that night slammed the door in my face. No, they all told me no. It was a bloodbath, Brent. In 1 hour, I got 7 no's from the 8 coaches in the room. That's a no every 8 minutes. Now I'm in the corner of the Toyota Center, second guessing this decision to come here today. I'm licking my wounds. I'm feeling sorry for myself. And the voice in my head is screaming at me, go home.
Yeah.
What are you doing here, Damon?
Yeah, why'd you show up?
You don't belong in this room. You know what the voice in my head?
Syndrome.
Yeah, that's exactly what the voice in my head called me an imposter.
Yeah.
But you know what I quit doing a long time ago? Listening to myself.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't listen to yourself either, because the voice in your head could be fear talking to you.
Yeah.
You don't want to listen to fear. Fear's a liar.
Yeah.
So instead of listening to myself, I talk to myself. And that's what I'm doing that night. I'm pumping myself back up. I'm like, Damon, you survived prison. You survived something way worse. You're not leaving until that coach tells you, till you talk to that last coach and he tells you no.
Yeah.
So, and the last coach, hardest guy to get to the room. His team had just beat Alabama 2 nights before for the national championship.
It's a big deal.
Everybody's trying to get his time. But I'm relentless, man. And I survived something way worse. I apply that perspective of what a bad day looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So I stalked Dabo Swinney right in this room. And I look like a nut, man. I'm hiding behind fake plants, trying to ambush Dabo. And I'm pushing people out of the way. Now, Dabo sees me, and security has seen me too. They're going to throw me out of the Toyota Center in just a matter of time. But I get in front of Dabo. I give him my best pitch for about 60 seconds. I come up for air. Dabo's like, man, you got a card on you. So I gave him my card, and he snatches it from me, and he's an in-demand guy that night, and he eventually would go on to win the award that night. Mm-hmm. And as he's taking off, he says, I'll check you out. And he's gone. And I'm like, well, that's the no I was waiting for. I'm going home. I felt good about that no because I left it all on the field, Brent. Mm-hmm. That's what we learned from playing sports. Or Muhammad. You don't have to win all your fights. You got to fight all your fights.
Keep fighting.
I just fought them all, man.
Yep.
Or anybody that works in sales, man, you know it. You knock on every door, you make every call.
Exactly.
That's when your day ends. You don't work by a clock.
Yeah.
So my day was over.
Enough information yet when they're saying no.
Yeah, all right. But there was no chance to give him any more information. And so he was gone. I went home, forgot about that night. 4 months later, I get an email from the director of football operations at Clemson, a guy named Mike Dooley.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike Dooley's email said this: "Hey, Damon, Coach Sweeney met you at the award show in Houston. He'd love to have you come talk to the team. Do you have August 1st open?" Mike, I got every first open, brother. I got nothing going on in my life. I mean, talking in front of a mirror in my parents' spare bedroom. So August 1st, 2017, I go speak to the Clemson Tigers, the defending national champions of college football. And when I get done with my presentation that night, Dabo's in my face. I don't know if you've ever seen Dabo, man. Dabo is as advertised. He's very high energy.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, "Damon, that's the most amazing story I've ever heard. I've never seen my players respond like that to a speaker." He said, "Have you been to Alabama to talk to their football team?" I'm like, "No, Dabo. I've been to Clemson. I've been here. Hadn't been anywhere." He said, "Well, I just text Nick Saban. Let's see what happens with that." Next day, Saban's ops guy calls me. "Hey, Damon, Dabo called Coach Saban. Coach Saban can't wait to hear your story. How does August 21st, 7:30 p.m. work for you?" "Pretty good. I'll see you in Tuscaloosa. I'll be there for that." Wow. Just like that, Dabo Sweeney starts kicking open every door to college football. And I mean, Kirby Smart, Lincoln Riley, Chip Kelly, Lane Kiffin, Ryan Day, they all call my phone. "When are you coming to talk to my team?" But the real big event was yet to happen. It was August of 2018, 1 year after that presentation at Clemson. I get a phone call out of the blue from this guy named John Gordon. Now, John Gordon is one of the biggest motivational speakers and authors in America.
Yep.
This guy's the energy bus guy. I follow him for Twitter on Twitter for my inspiration. And I'm like, "John, I know who you are. How do you know who I am?"
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Dabo Sweeney." He said, "I just got done speaking to Clemson's football team. And then I'm in the office with Dabo for 30 minutes. He's telling me your entire life story." He said this before the pandemic, Brent. He said, "Damon, the world needs a Coffee Bean message. Let's deliver this message to the world." He said, "Will you write a book with me? We'll call it The Coffee Bean." The summer of 2019, 10 years
Which, by the way, Damon, you told this a little bit before we got on. He saw the coffee bean that you had given for thanking Dabo for letting you be there, and he had it on his keychain, and he asked him, "What is that coffee bean, that wooden coffee bean on there?" Dabo starts telling the story, and Gordon's like, I got to talk to this guy.
Dabo pulls out his keys that day.
All those dots connect. It's incredible by being there, putting yourself in the situation, win or lose, and that's how they connect.
As a gesture of gratitude, when Dabo brought me in to talk to the team that first time in 2017, I gave Dabo a little wooden coffee bean keychain I found online. It cost a couple bucks. All I had was a couple bucks at the time, but it was a gesture of gratitude. My dad always said, "Hey, thank you notes, gestures of gratitude are great."
Old-fashioned stuff.
Dabo put it on his keychain, and when John got done speaking to his team in 2018, he pulls his keys out of his pocket, throws them on the desk. John says, "Hey, man, what's that little thing in your keychain?" Mm-hmm. Dabo said, "Oh, that's the coffee bean." He said, You don't know the story of the coffee bean." He said, "We had a guy come talk to the team named Damon West. For 30 minutes, Dabo tells him my entire life story. That leads to a phone call from John, because John asked Dabo for my number.
Yeah.
John calls me. We write the book, The Coffee Bean, comes out in the summer of 2019, took the world by storm.
Yep.
Started off in America, 6 weeks on the bestseller list, gets a global publishing deal. Global publishing deals, they're rare. It's in every language in the world: Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, French, Italian, German. And in 2020, a global pandemic hits. The entire world becomes a pot of boiling water. And so many people came to the coffee
Make the connection
as the message to get them through it. And my life takes off vertically. I can't even tell you the ascension that happened at that moment.
Well, I've been following it, Damon, and your story re-inspires a lot of people in our world and reentry, because a lot of this about this show, Nightmare Success, is that there is hope. You can make a second chance work. The narrative can be broken, and voices like yours, that you didn't give up, you didn't take. You took the nose, but kept the fight. That's the thing about having that ex-felon thing that follows you forever is you're not getting rid of that.
Punishment never stops.
You're going to carry that with you. How do you carry it and make it work?
Yeah, in America.
That's a great thing about your story.
Yeah, in America, punishment never stops. You're never going to, you could take me, man. by every metric, I'm a success story. You know,
Yes.
I'm the guy that brings hope, but I can't get most jobs in America. I'm going to check a
Right.
box. I'm a felon.
Right.
It's a mistake that I made from 2005 to 2008 that I went to prison for, by the way, and paid for with my life. But America, punishment never stops. People talk about these wonderful ideals of Christianity. We forgive everybody. That's not true. We don't do that in America. Punishment doesn't stop in this country. We judge people constantly, man. It's just like when people talk about that, I mean, it's like, I'm like, what fantasy world do you live in? Because but you have to live with the facts that you create in your own life. And I created some bad facts in my life because of the choices that I made. They're not going away.
No,
you can't stick your head in the
you just deal with them. You put them in the back seat, not in the front seat of your car, and continue to drive. And that's a big deal.
You're darn right. That's exactly what you do. And, you know, I'll close up with this on the whole story of the coffee bean. One of the biggest things in life for me was to find Muhammad when I got out of prison. The guy that told me the story of the coffee bean. And I'm like, this, because I think we all know I wouldn't be here without him. And I get out of prison. I can't find you, first of all, because his real name's not Muhammad. That's his Muslim name. I don't know his real name. And so for 7 years, I'm waiting for him to find me. And this is how he finds me. I get a letter from an inmate at the Texas Department of Criminal Justice 2 years ago. I get a lot of inmate mail, Brent, because who I am to every man and woman in prison is what you talked about. I am Andy Dufresne. I am hope to those men and women in prison. I love the mail I get from the incarcerated men and women. I write them all back. Yeah. But this letter couldn't be returned. There was no return address, had one sentence. Find James Lynn Baker and you find Muhammad. Boom. The clue that took 7 years. So I go to Dallas, get a private investigator. My lawyer and I get this private investigator. We find his criminal record. Matched everything he told me in and out of prison his entire life. Had him in Dallas County Jail in 2009. So I know this is my friend. All we got to do is find his current address, but we never found his current address because James Lynn Baker II, Muhammad, he died in Dallas, Texas on May 9th, 2017 of an opiate overdose. He was a drug addict just like me, but he never got help for his addiction, never made it to a program recovery. So now that I know who the guy is, I go out and find his family to honor him. And his family, they live in South Dallas still, where he grew up, the poorest, most inner city urban part of Dallas. And I told him, I said, if you'll let me, every year for the rest of my life, I'll put $10,000 into a trust for a scholarship in his name. We'll call it the James Lynn Baker II, be a coffee bean scholarship. And I would love for your family to pick that winner every year so that every year, one little boy or one little girl that grows up in his old neighborhood, they're getting a better chance at life through an education, because these two guys met up at Dallas County Jail in 2009. And to this date, we have picked 2 scholarship winners. The last 2 years, we picked a winner each year. The family picks a winner. I don't have anything to do with it. Both little girls from South Dallas, both in situations where the money means everything to them, and they get to go to college and become a better version of themselves. So,
David, that is awesome.
Yeah, I finally found Muhammad. I tell people all the time.
But it also keeps him alive, in the neighborhood.
And it changed the memory of his family. His family didn't have a lot of good things to say about this guy. There wasn't a lot of positive to say. But I was able to change the entire memory of our human being after they're gone. What's the value on that? And what I learned about the coffee
priceless.
Bean, what I learned about the coffee bean too, Brent, is that one of the reasons he told me the story of the coffee bean, I truly believe, is that so one day I could come back and redeem him. Because I found redemption, right, through his message. But what if I could come back and redeem you too? So you never know who you're talking to in life. You never know who you're going to meet. And look,
Brent, it's so powerful.
If I
got to ask you a question, Damon, because I ask everybody this: is your journey is incredible. I mean, your story is incredible. What you're doing right now is incredible. The lives that you're impacting are incredible. What do you think's your biggest takeaway from this whole journey you've been on?
Oh man, I can tell you the biggest takeaway is that it's all about putting back into the world. You can't be a taker. You got to put back servant leadership, helping other people reach their goals in life. And look, no matter how long it takes, you got to just keep getting up every day. And to become the best version of you, you have to find a way to help other people. Yeah. We help other people reach their goals in life. We help ourselves. That's how it works. As somebody's going to help us out too.
Yeah. And it fills you up.
It fills you up, man. It took me 7 years to find Muhammad.
Yeah.
It took me 7 no's that night in Houston to get to the one yes I needed in life. The one yes that changed my life. It took me 7 years to get out of prison. Brent, some of your goals in life are going to take longer than others, but don't give up. Don't wait before the miracle happens. That night in Houston, Texas, if I walk out the door that night after 7 no's, We're not having this conversation today.
No.
The world doesn't have the coffee bean message. Don't give up. Don't quit, man. That's the takeaway, man. No matter how long it takes, keep putting in the work every day, and to become the best version of you, find ways to help other people.
I love it. God, I love it. I love it.
This
Damon,
has been a great conversation, man. Thank you.
It's just and the best way to find you. I mean, there's so many things that you can, but DamonWest.org. There's so many things there. There's books. There's going to be a movie. There should be a movie.
We're working on that right now, and like, but I mean, am I speaking? If you want to get in touch with me for speaking, whatever it is, DamonWest.org. Brent said it a while ago.
Yeah.
Instagram, Twitter, all that, or X, whatever they call it now, at DamonWest7. Books are available on Amazon. If you want to get
stuff on Instagram too. Follow him on Instagram. He's always got something good on there.
Awesome, man. Hey, thanks a lot for today, Brent.
Yeah, Damon. And I want to just quickly say thanks to Homestead Financial for letting me do my podcast here. That's much appreciated. If anybody's got home mortgage needs, it's Greg Aftiev. He's your man. Keep sharing. Do a review. I know it's a hassle on Apple, but if you can do a review, those really just put the show on steroids. If you want to find me, it's BrentCassidy.com. I spell it wrong. It's with a TY, not a DY. As I used to say when I was writing my emails back and forth from Leavenworth, stay strong. I'll do the same. Damon West, you are awesome. Thank you for today. So appreciate you.
Thanks a lot, y'all. Be a coffee bean.
Ever success, in and out.